My name is Dean Murray, and this is my Cherokee. Today, we're going to go over another custom feature of this rig, the hood. I've had a lot of questions emailed to me and social media comments wondering, how did I mount the hood? How did I get these dimple die holes in here? And questions about paint. Well, today we're going to go over all of that and more on today's webisode. Thanks for joining me and stick around. Okay, we've got the hood on the work desk and we're going to show you some of the features of it. I guess the first thing that's probably apparent is that it's not on the hinges on the Cherokee, which is true. We removed the hinges from the Cherokee and from the back side of the hood, and the catch from the front side that you reach down and open it, and the cable activation from the inside of the cab, they're all gone. We junked them, and we went and put on 5 hood pins, 3 across the front, 2 across the back. These are made from a company called Auto Fab. Let me show you what this looks like. It's a rubber piece with 4 stainless steel mounting hardware bolts. When you put this on, you got to drill the 4 holes for the mounting hardware, and then the big one here, and then that drops into your hood, and this is what's coming up from underneath. Of course, you've seen one of these before, and that just goes over and latches down, so nothing new, right? Well, I was losing these all the time, and the little pieces of wire that they sent me never held them on well, so I went and put some monofilament, some fishing line. If you haven't seen it before, incredibly resilient. I don't know what the test on this is, but plenty of enough, and to date none of them have popped off. So I have them all here. They do rattle around, but when they're secure and fastened, they don't, so they're good. So that's the first thing that you obviously notice. The next thing is the paint scheme. We went with a black satin, kind of flat black. It helps with the reflection of the sun immediately. If you're driving into the sun, you have 0 reflection, of course, minus the strip here and on the sides, but that doesn't really do anything at all to negatively affect your driving ability. So try it out if you get an opportunity. It's pretty easy just to mask these lines. They're just following the contours of the hood, and I've seen a lot of people do it. You can use rattle can or a gravity sprayer, or you can use vinyl. I've seen people use all the options. It's something worth trying. Give it a try, and you'll really like the results. So let's go on to the hood vents. Hood vents are great for releasing hot air from under the hood when you're crawling or you're at speed, but they are strategically designed. If you look at the front of rally cars, you'll notice that the holes are in the front because the first 1/3 of the hood releases the air at a faster speed, and the back 1/3 of the hood releases the air at a slower speed. So I've got the best of both worlds here. We put 12 total holes in, 6 across the front. You get a 1.5 inch, a 2, and a 2.5 inch hole, and then there's 2-inch holes in the back. And they're all dimple dyed. Dimple dye is a process where you take a 2-piece tool, it's a male and a female, and you put it on opposite sides of the sheet metal or steel, and you press those together through a press or a rubber mallet, depending on the thickness of that sheet metal, and it kind of funnels the inside of that hole inward. And what that does is it helps maintain the rigidity of that steel after you went and removed these, the holes that you've drilled and made it into Swiss cheese. So it wants to just fall in on itself. Well, this ends up helping keep it rigid. Look into them. They're quite expensive tools. I wouldn't recommend buying them. You might be able to rent them or borrow them from somebody, but I think a whole set of those is going to run you at least a couple $100. So what I did was I borrowed these from a fellow fabricating friend, and you start off with the process of, getting your design, how you'd like to do it, and then laying down some masking tape, and then coming in with a hole saw. In fact, I'll show you a picture right here. Okay, Okay, that picture represents the pattern here that we were drilling, and we came in with a hole saw and we drilled out these holes, and then we went and we dimple dyed this on a 40-ton press, which was overkill, but it still worked. I'll show you that right here. Okay, now, so we've got, like I said, 12 different holes strategically placed. Now, the only negative thing that you could really think about this is there's no drip pan. So if any water enters this, how would that affect the motor? Well, that is true. This is a trail-only machine, so I'm not driving this in the rain. And if you think about it, right here is where your brake system is. Right here is where your heater blower motor is. Not for me, though. And then here you got the power steering pump and the upper radiator hose. Nothing really is going to be negatively affected if it gets water on it. The intake is located here with sensors on the throttle body, and here's where my distributor is, so I'm covered. A lot of guys, though, choose to use those Chrysler LeBaron hood vents with the drip pans. That's a great idea. So you have options out there. Just think about, you know, what you're going to do with the machine and where it's going to be before you start drilling holes in your hood. So that's basically the top side of this. We're going to flip this over and show you the other side and see what it looks like underneath. Alright, here we are looking at the underside of the hood. First thing you can tell is we painted it the flat black that we did on the top, as well as we removed the support system that is on the bottom of the hoods. If you look at the bottom of your XJ hood, or actually any for that matter, you'll tell that there's a bunch of supports that keep the hood from caving in on itself. Well, I removed those because I wanted this to be a lot lighter and more like a body panel or a skin. So what I did was I took one of those razor blade scrapers, and these supports are mounted by glue from the factory, and you've got to scrape it off, but you've got to do it very gently because you will score the metal, and on the top side of the hood where the paint is, you'll see a bunch of lines, so you've got to be real careful with the way that you remove that glue. But now that I removed those supports, the hood itself can you know, basically taco in on itself when you take it off. So I needed to put another piece of some kind of reinforcement across here. So what we did was welded a piece of 5/16 round bar right here across the front. We welded in about 8 different places, and it gives it the rigidity that it needs so that it won't fold in on itself. Let me show you what I mean by that. When I lift this side, you can tell it's straight here, or straighter, and this side just kind of wants to scoop down. That's the back of the hood there. So it's fine with just one piece. It just won't allow it to do that, to fold in on itself when you're taking it off. You can also tell here from the underside the funneling effect of the dimple dies. And also we have all 5 of the hood pins. This is the underside of them. You've got to trim down that that middle piece to you know, accompany the inside of your hood. Wherever it's going to lay, you may need to trim a little bit off here or there. Some of them just lay flat like this one did. And lastly, we had to when we trimmed down the side of the hood here, we had to come back with some body trim to prevent you from cutting yourself. You know, I hit it with a grinder wheel, so it's a lot smoother, but I still didn't want to grab at the edge of metal, so we put some trim on it. But when you put the hood back on the vehicle, it tucks in there real nicely, and you don't see the edge of this. So, well, let's go take it over to the body now and put it on the Cherokee and show you how that actually mounts onto the vehicle. Okay, here we are at the front of the Jeep, and before I mount the hood, I want to show you how the pins are welded to the Jeep. So there's 3 across the front, 2 in each corner, and 1 that resides in the middle. They're all just welded to the flat piece of steel, the one that's above your radiator. It's a pretty easy mount. You just take the pin and flatten out the bottom nut on it. You're going to weld this down, and then this top nut will be used for any adjustments up or down that you need for the hood to be raised or lowered. Pretty straightforward. The rear mounts are a different story. They're a custom mount that we needed to make to fit the hood on. The reason why is because these did not have a flat piece to be welded to. So let me grab the camera off here and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, here's the rear mount. What we did is we used the original 3 bolts that the hinges were mounted to, and we took a piece of plate and some 1-inch stock and fabricated a mount that the pin is then welded to, and you just would come in. This would be the hood. It would drop in, and that's it. It's all about creativity at this point here. So, well, let's mount the hood and show you how that goes. Okay, the last part of the video is to show you how I mount the hood. I typically don't do this by myself, so it may take me a moment. Let me go grab it, and we'll do that right now. That's it. We just drop it in place and come in with these pins, fire them over. Well, that's it. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them below, and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, thanks for stopping by, and until the next video, we'll see you. Well, I appreciate you watching this video. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you have any future requests, feel free to drop that in the comment section below. Thanks again for your view.